Hello and welcome to Data Sunrise demo. In this demo, we'll see how we can use dynamic data masking with subsetting for an application user detected by Data Sunrise. So Data Sunrise can detect application users by using so-called virtual sessions. And we can see on the slide the information how Data Sunrise makes this possible. So even if an application connects through the Data Sunrise to the database instance with single database user, Data Sunrise has several ways to identify application users. More information we can find on the user guide. Here's information on how Data Sunrise captures the application users. This is a chapter 16. And it describes different methods or techniques. Data Sunrise identifies client application users with so-called virtual sessions. So every application user detected has a virtual session inside of Data Sunrise. But how to detect such application users so Data Sunrise can identify the activity of each application user? Let's look inside of Data Sunrise and we'll see different capabilities and settings, how Data Sunrise can be configured to identify end users or client application users. So we are here in Data Sunrise with Data Sunrise Web UI. And in order to see how to configure the settings of Data Sunrise instance, I will enter into the Postgres database instance. And when we need to configure specific application users, detection mechanism of application users, we can go inside of the actions and click here application user settings. Here we can define many profiles for different applications. In fact, if we have multiple custom applications or ERP CRM applications, Data Sunrise provides us with a way to make such a profiles to detect different applications with application users inside. Let's look inside of this example. We can see here that I've pre-configured this method to identify my customers' web app users. And how we can do that? So what ways do we have? I use the query method. What does it mean? That Data Sunrise expects specific query that falls under this pattern, username in SQL pattern. Well, while using this SQL pattern, which is regular expression actually, we're going to identify application user under the first group identified by this regular expression. So that means that when my web application will send to Data Sunrise this select statement, where will be this text demo site user something equals, and then it will be the group, right? Actually, it will contain some email like user1@domain.com, right? Data Sunrise will detect this user and will provide this information to the virtual session inside of Data Sunrise itself without establishing any extra connections or sessions to the database instance. Well, it's already enabled, right? So it should work. What other methods do we have? So if you look inside of the capture type, we can see that there can be a result set as a way to identify application users. If some bind variables used by the application, then you can configure that for this binding. So it should be the full match with the regular expression with bind variables, and the same way Data Sunrise will identify the first group of this application user ID, right? And we'll use that string identified by Data Sunrise as the name of the application user in the so-called virtual session inside of Data Sunrise. So also Data Sunrise can identify an application user with session parameter. Right? If you know the name of this parameter in the session fields established to the database instance through Data Sunrise, so you're welcome to use this method as well. Okay. But still, I'm going to use my query here, right? So I save this query as a username in SQL pattern, and my user will be detected by this first group of this regular expression. So I'm going to close it, leave it unchanged, so it should be activated. It's enabled. Well, now I can use application users and application user groups to identify my application users. Actually, the user I'm going to use was already identified by this setting, and I'm going to involve this user in my rule, right? So I can do that. Let me show here that's a PostgreSQL instance, right? And there is a special rule created for the sake of this demo to show customers CA state only for the United States, with CA, which is California abbreviation, right? So we can use this rule. I'm going to show you what's inside. So on the action subsection, we are going to log this event in the storage every time any user or application user will try to use the data through DataSonize, and the data will be masked. I'm going to log this event in this storage of DataSonize. So, but very interesting thing is here, which is filter sessions. This subsection tells me that I'm going to use some application user capturing, and I'm going to capture user which should be equal to kittycatty@fuji.com, right? So it's possible to use different techniques like application user groups. If we have multiple application users detected by DataSonize during some learning process, during the running of the learning rules, then it's possible. So now this rule targets my application user. It's written here, and I'm going to mask some data for that particular application user, right? But how to do that? So I've selected in my masking settings a specific table, right? So, and in this table, I decided to mask the data with so-called hiding roles. So I'm going to hide roles, and I'm going to show tables that match the condition specified here. So this is like a where condition in SQL statement. Additional where parameter means that I'm going to show for the specific application user values from this table only with this specific conditions. So state equals CA will be shown to my application user, right? Okay, now this rule is disabled, right? So I'm going to enable it, and you'll see how it will run in the reality. Now I'm going to enable the rule. Now the rule became with this green tag, green marker. I'm going to come back to my customers application. So I see now all customers are here, right? So if I refresh the page, then this application running through DataSonize in the proxy mode, it will send query to the database instance. Well, and we can see here different states, and this is actually the application user ID I used, right, to log into this application. And for that particular application user, right, which is used as application user as well, I'm going to show only CA states like this one and this one. Right. Let's refresh the page, and we'll see the horizontal masking with the application user in action. Now we see that only two roles are shown to this particular application user detected by DataSonize. How we can see that actually this magic happened and make sure that the application user was detected, right? So we see that application works as expected, that it can view the update data and so on. Since my dynamic masking rule saves information about the triggering of the rule, so we can go back to the dynamic masking rules and check dynamic masking events. We can see that it whether detected or not. So we see the rule show customers CA state only triggered, right? Even several times. Let's look inside of this ID field. Okay. And we can see here the application users detected. So I use this email to log in into my customer's application. And Data Science detected this application user with a method to detect and capture application user IDs. And all other fields are provided from Data Science, right, from the session information. I see that the query was used like this, and this affected some data, some columns. And this way we can really customize Data Science to detect and capture application users and create different audit, dynamic masking, or even security rules to narrow down our rules and the policy to make our life a little bit easier with application users. Thank you for watching.